I had a 25-year career prior in computers, so I was a computer nerd before I became a laundry nerd. Single mom, 2 kids, looking for additional income. I've always been doing laundry for somebody else. It was something that the community had always depended on, and the appreciation of fixing it up really meant a lot to me. I got diagnosed with breast cancer in May of 2024, started chemo in June, finished chemo in October, and I've kicked the cancer to the curb and doing great. Both my parents grew up in the Depression and instilled in me the value that you don't steal from anybody, you work for it. And I've worked my butt off my whole life, so has my husband. And just to have somebody want to take a shortcut and try to, take from that, take from my family.
Hello and welcome to the Laundromat Ownership Podcast. I'm your host, Ian Gallahan. Me and my business partner, Brian Henderson, own Liberty Laundry in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's a chain of 3 laundromats. We did about $2.5 million in revenue, top line revenue in 2025. But we're also the founders and owners of Wash Dry Fold POS, the original point of sale system for laundromats. Today we have with us a very special guest, Sharon Brinks. And I know Sharon from being a very successful, one of our most successful customers over the years, and it was really gracious and generous of her to join us on the podcast. But Sharon, why don't you introduce yourself and kind of give people an idea of the scope of your operations and just an overview?
Sure. So I'm Sharon Brinks. Hi, in Wichita, Kansas. I bought my first laundromat January of 2014. It was a little rundown zombie mat, if you will. I was single mom, 2 kids, looking for additional income. I fixed it up, put in some new equipment. It was already a Speed Queen store, so I put some new Speed Queen equipment in there, cleaned it, painted it up. Really fell in love with the laundry business at that point. I mean, that was the bomb for me. So fast forward a few years, got married, moved into Wichita proper. Still had that little laundromat about 30 miles outside of Wichita. My husband and I built our big flagship store, the Laundry Station, opened it in 2018. Then we decided to go ahead and close the store in that other little town. The perfect storm hit, a long story. We'll get into a little bit of that here on another topic later. But we closed that store, sold the equipment, sold the building, then built our second store in Wichita. So we have 2 stores. Both are Speed Queen touch stores. We use Wash Dry Fold POS in both stores. And that second store we opened a year and a half ago in August of 2024. So there we are.
Thanks for the quick summary there. I appreciate that. And that kind of gives everyone an idea of how long you've been doing this and what you've done so far. And just to let the audience know, your stores are very successful, and you also do speak at a lot of conferences and laundromat owner gatherings, and you're kind of one of the original thought leaders in the space. And so I wanted to give you your credit there as well.
I've taken a little bit of time off here lately to, just kind of double down and focus on our operations, but we'll jump back into it probably next year. So, yeah.
Well, I actually want to go back to before you even got into the laundromat sphere of knowing everyone, back to 2014. What do you think it was about just kind of turning around that little store that made you fall in love with laundromats? Was it just the process of making something better, or what do you remember?
So self-employed at the time, I was a real estate agent. I had a few rental properties, wanted that little additional, passive income.
So passive, yeah.
Yeah, so passive. But I lived about 20 minutes away. It wasn't like I lived right down the street or anything. But we were partially attended at that time. I inherited 2 employees from the previous owner. They were getting a divorce. So, it was kind of forced the sale to split the proceeds. I've always loved doing laundry. I mean, I've done laundry since, got married the first time around. So it's been several decades ago. I've always been doing laundry for somebody else. So I just love that process of getting clothes clean. And then this particular laundromat it had been a laundromat and a dry cleaners at the time, years and years before, but since 1961. So it was a fixture in the community. It was the original laundromat for that little town. So everybody, I had so many people that would come in and say, "Oh, I remember being here as a little kid. My mom would bring me here, or my grandmother would bring me here, and we'd do laundry." So it was something that the community had always depended on, and the appreciation of fixing it up and making it a lot nicer really meant a lot to me. So that was fun. So I've always wanted to work for myself anyway. I had a 25-year career prior in computers, so I was a computer nerd before I became a laundry nerd. So I got laid off due to a corporate merger, and that's what started the whole, I'm going to be a real estate agent, have some rentals, and then buy this laundromat. So I've always wanted to be self-employed anyway. So the timing was right for me. So, but I love the laundry business just because of that.
It makes sense. And, I do think there's a lot of people just like improving the world around them. And whether that's taking dirty clothes and making them clean, or taking a rundown laundromat and making it nice, I think there's really some value there and something to be said about, just improve. I mean, we all want to make money. We all have to make money with what we do. But when you can actually see that you've made a difference and that you've made things nicer for people, and that's part of their day-to-day life, that part is kind of rewarding in addition to the revenue. Because we've all probably had jobs where we had revenue, but we didn't get that other piece of it where we weren't making anything nicer. We didn't get to see the fruits of our labor in that way. So that makes a lot of sense. And also, I'm struck by your story, even though it's very unique. I've heard so many times people come from software or from real estate development, or it's like people get into laundromats from every which way. There's no standard path to, becoming a laundromat owner. And so it's unique, but not surprising. And you had this software background. And we have so many IT people that have our software, so many of our customers that were in IT or software development at some point in their lives. So tell me then a little bit more about, you sold off the first store and then you opened the second store and then you opened a third store after that. Is that correct? So you've had three total?
The laundry station. So the other one was named Super Suds.
That's right.
Suds with a Z. Not to be confused with the one in California that everybody knows.
Right.
So Suds with a Z. So Super Suds was still open. We decided to build the second one, and it just wasn't worth the hassle of driving back and forth that 30 minutes to go to the other one that made this much money, where, the population, the money was in Wichita, not in the little
laundry station.
So we opened that second one, then closed the first one, and then opened the third one. So that was the order of events.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
And the second one did more revenue just right off the bat from the first one.
It did, yeah. There's a more dense population than town.
That's what it was. Okay.
Wichita is a city of, and I couldn't tell you off the top of the head what the 1 mile radius, definitely a 3 mile radius, but I think the 1 mile radius around that second store is probably the entire population of the city that the first store's in. So, a lot more.
And how big was that? How big was that first laundry station?
The Super Suds one? Or
no, the second one. Sorry, the second.
Right, the second store. So it has 30 washers, 1,400 pounds of wash capacity, and we opened with 35 dryer pockets. We now have 33, because when we retooled, nobody retools after only 5 years, having brand new equipment, and you retail after 5 years, but we did. So I got rid of the 30-pound stacks and replaced those with 2 more 75-pound single pockets. So that reduced us from 35 pockets to 33. So, and now our newest store is 24 washers with 1,100 pounds of wash capacity and 25 dryer pockets. So. Did
you go with any 80-pounders in that second store?
Or second store, we went with 2. Okay. I probably should have went with 4. At the first laundry station, we have 4 80-pounders, but we also have 200-pounders.
Okay.
So, yeah. I should have went with 2 less 20s, and 2 more 80s. But hindsight's
Got it. Well, that's been the story of our stores as well. It's like each
yeah,
store we go with the larger machines
yeah.
or whatever. It's like, and that is very common of, I think, and this is just my personal opinion, I think the distributors, they want to sell you as much, they want the ticket to be as big as they can for the square footage of that store.
Well, so here's the thing with me, and anybody who's ever met me knows, probably gets this, but I will ask the distributor, I'll tell them, this is what I want, get me a quote for this equipment. I've never asked them for, what's your opinion of my equipment mix? So
Right.
I want. So that was on me. I wanted 620s and I should only went with 4. Actually, the next store, we're looking at our 3rd location, and we've got our eye on a spot. We haven't pulled the trigger yet, but I'm like this close. But it would be just a bare piece of land and build the building up. But we might start with just 30s or 40s. We might not even have 20s. So don't even
The
get me started
20s,
with
yeah.
soft mount horizons. No, no top loads and no soft mounts. So
Yes, I agree 100%. And it is funny. I always talk to people about, like, if you get a 1,000 laundromat owners in the same room, they'll argue about everything in the book. But then if you just put the top 10% in revenue, they'll agree. Like, no top loaders, no soft mounts. Make sure you get good 80 pounders in there. Don't do too many 20s, because we've all made that same mistake.
yeah,
We've
yeah.
all had that first store that had that machine layout. And
Now that
go
being
ahead.
said, we've got 820s at our first laundry station, and often they're all in use on Sunday afternoon. Would I
Yep.
change that equipment mix? I'm not sure. I might take out 2 of the 20s and put in more 40s, or just put in more 40s. I'm not sure. But
Yeah.
at very first, the Super Suds, the little rundown store, top loaders, half of which were out of order, bunch of the Horizons, and that's how I learned my distaste for those. That rubber gasket, you pull that thing up, and the smells and the horrific things that you see under that rubber gasket, especially when we became an unattended store and nobody was in there cleaning it. When I had a cleaning crew, I would have a cleaning crew come in every couple of days and clean it up, but they wouldn't get under those gaskets. And yeah, I can still remember the smell and what it would look like. It was disgusting. So,
Yeah, yeah. If someone were to say, like, why isn't laundromat ownership, semi-passive from day one, one of the first things that would come to my mind would be machine repair. Everything in the store breaks, whether it's a
yeah.
vending machine or a soap machine or a washer or a dryer, and they all break all the time. And someone's got to fix them. It's either going to be you or you have to hire someone to do it. So
And the newer stuff won't break as much, but
that's right.
it will. I mean, I've
Still
had bad
breaks.
water valves and the screen cracks, those plastic covers on the front of the touch screens. Alliance, please, for the love of all things holy, figure that one out. I'm so tired of that. I have a request in, and granted, it's covered by warranty. The part is, but not the labor, and I'm not going to put those things in. So I've got about a request for another 8 of them between the 2 stores again. So,
Yeah. We
but
had some.
it doesn't affect the controls underneath. Just to be clear, it just looks
Yeah.
ugly. It's
That's the good thing. It's just like the cover that cracks.
yeah.
We've had some on our 80 pound, because we got some new Quantum Touch 80s, and we
Right.
had some issues with the door hinges being overly tight, and it was just like really hard to
Oh, on your
open.
80s?
And yeah,
My,
yeah, on
my
that.
2 at the second
Yep,
store, I have the same problem. Yep.
yep. And we've gone back and forth on that. So yes, even though new machines are much better to have and good to get, and we've been very happy with ours,
Yeah.
nothing works all the time in a laundromat. That's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
and that's going to be with any manufacturer and any situation that you have. It's not semi-passive unless you've built it to be semi-passive and you have the right people employed. So let's kind of transition to that, because you're saying you're building a 3rd store, and
Well, we're thinking about
when I hear that, I get, or you're going to open your 3rd store. I guess is your 4th store to own, but
right.
um,
Well, we haven't bought the land yet. We're looking at the
okay.
location. We're thinking about it. We're pondering it. I do want to do another store. It's just, is it going to be that one or that spot or not? So, yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about your personal motivation on that, because this is something that I think about a lot, where it's like we have 3 stores. At a certain point, it's doing a good amount of profit for you and your family, or at least that's our situation. It's
Right.
making good money.
Right.
And then do we want to expand and have more problems and more employees and more managers and
Yeah.
more meetings and
Yeah.
more headaches? And, it's like, obviously you want the revenue, you want to keep building. There's this thing inside of us that just wants to keep on
Yeah.
doing well when we succeed at something and doing what we're good at.
Yeah.
But tell me what that conversation sounds like for you, because I know you've had health struggles in the past,
Yeah.
5 years. I don't know how much you want
Right.
to go into that today, but
Yeah.
t-
I'll give my
yeah,
PSA on have your mammograms, ladies, here
yes,
in a little bit.
yes,
But yeah, it's like, okay, I've had great success. First store, great success in the second store. Well, let's try it again. So, but then on the other hand, my husband and I aren't getting any younger, but we're still in great health. I mean, just I've kicked the cancer to the curb and doing great. I'm healthier than I've ever been, to be honest, but lots of energy, obviously. It's the fun of building it. On the other hand, if you've ever built a house with your spouse and you've survived that, and your marriage has stayed intact, then you got a good marriage. So my husband and I have built 2 laundromats together, and we're still married. So so far so good. It can be a challenge. You can butt heads. The money's nice. We've had success with the first 2 laundromats. I'm blessed with a husband who loves to build laundromats, but doesn't like to run them. And I like to run them, but the process of building them is very stressful. It's fun. It's interesting. He is a structural engineer, so that helps a lot. So I'm
yeah,
like, okay, I want this many washers, I want this many dryers, and I kind of want them in this direction. And okay, what constraints do I have within the space? Because you have to be cognizant of so like the place we're looking at or the piece of land, we've already scoped out where's the sewer, how big's the water line, where's the storm sewer. We've already got curb cuts, ingress, egress, stuff like that. I look up the demographics. So I'm also a real estate broker, so I look up all the demographics of the 1 mile, 3 mile, 5 mile, even half mile around there. So I like that whole process of creating and building it. And yeah, don't get me wrong, the money's nice too, but I think when you have one store, you've got some brand recognition. When you have 2 stores, there's a little more brand recognition. Then when you have that 3rd store, you get more of a brand recognition, which I'm sure you guys learned over the years. Liberty Laundry, yeah, I know that one. I'm used to live over by this one, but now I've moved over by that one. And then if you have some sort of loyalty program for payments, that even helps too. So,
yep.
yeah. So
It bridges across all 3 stores in that case. And
yeah,
that's nice when you have to shut one down to do a cleaning or some kind of roof repair or,
exactly, exactly. So if we've had, if you have some sort of horrible incident, like we had a water line
yep,
problem in the middle
we've
of
had that.
one time, we could send people to another store. Or, okay, we got a wash, dry, fold, still has to happen. We can go do it at the other store and still have people come and do pick up and drop off at the other one. So it's nice having that backup location. So,
Yes.
but yeah, my husband and I aren't getting any younger. We're in our early to mid 60s, and there'll come a time when we're like, you know what, we're done. Will that be in 6 months? Will that be in a year? Will that be in 5 years? I don't know. But right now we're in great health, and we're going to be in Wichita for the foreseeable future. So why not? I got nothing better to do. So,
Well,
so
people like doing what they're good at, and I think it's
yeah,
clear that,
I think I
you've had a
found my
lot of
niche. I finally hit my stride. Yeah.
That's right. You've had a lot of things in your life really prepare you for this kind of a thing, and to execute at this scale and make this big of an impact
Yeah.
on the physical space. I mean, it's really a cool thing. I mean, that's
Yeah.
not something that the average person gets to do. So
Yeah.
I could definitely see why that would be satisfying. One of the things you mentioned, having the 3 stores and having the loyalty card that goes between the 3 stores, that may be kind of a good transition into this next question, which was about the alliance integration with Wash Dry Fold POS.
Yeah.
And do you have a separate payment system besides Insights, or is it just the Insights app that they use?
So no, we just use a Speed Queen app. We don't have a loyalty card per se. So
Okay.
it's just app based. There's no cards on it. That's the way they can get rewards is if they use the app, and they can use credit or debit. Or we have a value center at each of the stores where they can feed in cash and load that onto their app as well.
And that's like an Insights value center
So
that Speed Queen
Insights is the software that runs all this stuff. The app is just the Speed Queen app.
Okay.
So Insights is, my understanding is Insights is what you and I as store owners use behind the scenes to program the machines, run all the reports. And there's so many reports. You can slice things so many different ways. It's incredible. Machine drain times, fill times, how people have paid, who are your customers. They do have a CRM, which, to be honest, I've never used, but I've just not really gotten into that. But it's for for the self-service folks. So at our store, we have 4 ways to pay. You can use quarters at the machine. We no longer supply quarters. We can talk about that later as to why. But you can bring your own quarters, and you can use quarters at the machine. You can use the Speed Queen app, credit, debit, or cash using the Speed Queen app. We've enabled the scan, pay, wash, which Alliance, I guess, I think they have it on the Hips machines also. But anyway, Speed Queen has started that just the last few months. You scan the QR code on the machine and pay for it with credit or debit on your phone, or they can pay at the counter,
Right.
which is a really cool thing because this awesome POS system we have called Wash Dry Fold POS has an API which is a little software piece which talks to all the equipment, and you can pay at the counter. I have all my machines set up as to what the pricing is. The customers set the price. They pick the additions, the upcharges, whatever they want, the extra cycles on the machine. They come to the counter, tell me the name, tell the attendants I'm talking fast now because I get all excited.
No, you're good.
That's part I get
You're
all
good.
tell the attendant the number of the machines that they want, and then the attendant just selects those machines. It pulls in from the machine the price that the customer selected, and then they can pay at the POS with cash, credit, or debit. And then it sends the remote vend command. The POS system sends the remote vend command back out to the machine and says, okay, customers paid $10 at the counter. It's just the same as they've put $10 worth of quarters in the machine. So all I have to do is go back and hit start. So
That's right. Yeah.
Slick. Wash Dry Fold POS has reporting on it as well. That numbers also, since it's remote vend, it's reported back into the Insights reporting. So I can see what was vended and where. Was it coins? Was it Wash Dry Fold POS? Or was it from the app? So I can slice it and dice it different ways, pull it into a spreadsheet that I keep track of all of our weekly sales numbers on. It's just makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, the integration has been really important, not just for Speed Queen, but even if it's like a LaundryWorks or a Fast Card or a Spider Wash.
Yeah.
To build those integrations has always been important. I think one thing that I didn't understand when we first started building that Alliance integration, we thought the main, and this is still a main function of it, right? We were really, or at least I was hyper focused on, okay, you need to start the washers and dryers from the point of sale system because you need to, have, okay, this is Jeff's order and I'm going to start 2 washers for Jeff and 3 dryers or 2 dryers. And then that all comes back as ratios of, okay, how much did we spend on that order versus how much did we bring in?
Right.
And you can sort that by employee so you can look out for theft and efficiencies. And I was really focused on that, I think, because it's called Wash, Dry, Fold POS, right? It's not,
Exactly.
so I'm focused on the Wash, Dry, Fold piece of it.
Right.
But then as soon as we partnered with Alliance, because we were the first ones to build this machine start integration with them, at your store, right?
Yep.
And I'm
Test
sure
again.
yes, right. Yeah. You volunteer for all the testing in the industry. All the stuff was built at your store.
Queen, sure.
We need to get you a shirt that says like Laundromat Industry Crash Test Dummy. Like,
Yeah.
And then just list all the things that your store has developed or that has been developed at your store. But once we had it ready and we released it, and we, Alliance started sending us all these customers, because as they kind of winded down their point of sale software and trying to get people off theirs and onto something else, one of the first things they would talk to us about was, well, what if I have a self-serve customer who wants to start a machine with their card, but they want to do it at the cash register? And we hadn't really thought too much about that, but it became clear that that was going to be a really central part of the integration. And even part of it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think some of the other softwares out there, they would just send a start command when you paid. And so then you could like add extra washes or add extra dry time. And it wouldn't know, because the point of sale system was just taking in some amount of money and sending a start command. And so it was really important for us when we built it to say, no. If you get $10 at the point of sale system, you need to send $10 to the washer. And then if they want to add more, an extra rinse, or if it's a dryer and they want to add more dry time, then that needs to be a separate add-on, and that needs to go back to the point of sale system. You need to add more money. And so we kind of built ours a little bit different than how it had ever been built in the past, by tying specific values into exactly what we're sending back out to the machines from the point of sale system. And that seems to be what people want. We've had multiple people say, "Hey, you guys did it right. Everyone else has done it wrong."
So for Speed Queen, or for the Alliance products, my understanding is, I was told by the director of IT that we were the reason the remote vend command was added. I mean,
that makes sense.
Because of that exact problem was, it would just send the like, we would go over into, before you guys had that API in there, we'd ring up the sale in Wash Dry Fold POS, and they pay their $10, or just figure, just to make it even, $10. So we add that to the cash register, but we'd still have to go over to Insights. I'd have to give my attendants access to Insights, and they would go over and hit start, and then anybody could go put extra wash, extra rinse, whatever. So so they added the remote vend command, and then I taught them, okay, now you're going to do a remote vend for $10. So now they can pick whatever options they want, but they can't go over $10.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
So
no, that makes sense.
POS that they used to have, we had it too, and yes, add that to my shirt. We were test dummies for that. Also, they were rolling it out to some of their other like franchise stores and whatnot. So some of the Alliance folks came down and installed it and trained us on it. So we had that for a couple of years. We opened our first store in 2018 with Wash Dry Fold POS. You guys had the PC-based version, and then the cool thing about the Alliance POS was that they had that API. So I knew it was a possibility. We could just put it in the POS system and have it automatically turn on. So that was the only reason we went away from Wash Dry Fold POS was, oh, you've got this cool API, and you're gonna, we get to be on the cutting edge of, of technology again. And so we went with that, but the Wash Dry Fold piece of it just never got where it really needed to be. And I'd make suggestions and they weren't implemented. And I'm like, I can't deal with this. So we weren't on it, I think maybe a couple of years. And then we went back to you guys, because by then you had a cloud-based system. And it was even with not having the remote vend command there yet, it was still head and shoulders above what we had before. So never looked back. And then once we got the remote vend command and you guys got the API in there now, it's smooth sailing. I love it.
Now it's the best of all worlds, yes.
Yeah.
Now it is, but it wasn't easy getting there, and I appreciate your patience with us over the years and getting there.
It was well worth it, though. It's worth the wait.
Well, thank you. It was worth it for us as well. And, I think what some people miss is an Alliance, which, we both have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars with Alliance. So I'm not not trying to
Yeah,
criticize them or anything, but I
more
do
than a
think
million
that,
here. Probably
yeah, yeah.
1.5 because I retooled a store and then built another one. So we're at 1.5, I think, plus.
Yeah. I think Liberty Laundry over the years is probably around 2 or
More
something.
now.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, it's
Yeah, 50
plenty.
stores, yeah.
Yeah, it's plenty, and we've retooled several times just recently as well, or in several stores. We're kind of doing it like all the washers in one store, and then all the dryers in one store, and
Yeah.
then we're just doing it in cash, and so we just kind of slowly retool all 3
Yep.
stores that way.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is, yeah, they know what they know about washers and dryers probably more than anyone else in the world. But that is actually different from operating a laundromat on a day-to-day basis and actually having to manage the attendants that do the wash, dry, fold and making sure that they can operate the software. And then what reports do you even need? Kind of like you said, if you've got 100 different types of custom reports you can create, well, the average laundromat owner is not a tech guru, and the average laundromat owner is going to be like, this is too many options. And
Yeah.
so it really does take another laundromat owner to go in and, I think the differences in the development approach there was that they were listening to their laundromat owners and then trying to put that on the roadmap and then trying to get that released, and eventually they just had to shut the whole thing down. But that's a lot different from then if you've built that specifically to solve your problems in your laundromats.
Right.
And then like just all day, every day, you're doing the laundromat owner point of sale thing.
Right.
That's a little bit different from if, manufacturing equipment is your main revenue stream and then you're building some software on the side.
Right.
And so I think that's kind of been part of what, everyone wants to just build what we've built as like a little add-on, but it turns out it's hard to do that. It turns out even with millions of dollars and years,
Yeah.
it is very difficult.
Yeah. I've done programming, systems analysis and design, project management, and IT I was just going back and rereading my old resume and it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, I used to do that, didn't I? And it's easy to criticize, but it's really hard to do. And the bigger the company, the harder it is to get stuff through. So,
That's very true. And it's easy to say like, oh, well, it just needs to do this and that. And I just needed to do these 10 simple things.
Yeah.
And then by the time you get it in your hands, it's like, well, it needs to do these other 100 things too, of course. And then now that we've got it, we want it to do another 100 things as well. And so that's just kind of, that's a software company is you're just constantly making it do more or do what it does more easily. And I guess that was one of the next questions I had for you was what features do you end up using the most and what features do you feel like kind of set it apart the most from maybe other softwares that you've tried, like Alliances, which we don't need to pick on theirs because it's not even available anymore. But
Right.
maybe that's a good reason to pick on it
Well-
we can say, well, it didn't do these things.
Yeah, the whole tracking of the wash, dry, fold order from intake. You intake, you put the due date on it, you move it from, okay, it's to do, we're sorting it, we're washing it, we're drying it, we're folding it, we're ready to pick up, what machines were used, and the integration, like what you had originally thought of was, I pick the machine, the washer, and it sends the command over to start the washer. Okay, now I move it to the dryer. Okay, which dryer do you want? Send the command over to start the dryer. So I've got a date timestamp of when the washer was started, when the dryer was started. So if the customer comes in and says, hey, my favorite red sweater didn't come back, I know what time on my video to go back and look and say, yeah, in 99 times out of 100, your red sweater did not come in with your order. But I know what time to go look, at least.
People really underestimate how valuable that is. They're like, I don't
God.
want to use all those timestamps. I don't want my ladies to be going back to that's one of the most common ones I get is like they have to go back to the cash register and select the machines. It's like, are they just going to be standing by the washer otherwise? Like, where else are they going to be in your store besides back at the register to help people and then select the next?
Yeah.
But those timestamps for exactly what you said are just...
It's invaluable. It is invaluable. And then when the order's done, text them automatically. It says, hey, you're the customer, your order's ready for pickup. yeah, who does the order. And I know some places will keep track of how many people worked on their order and who gets credit for it, 100% here or 50%, 50-50. I don't use any of that, so I can't speak to any of it. But yeah, just knowing the progress of the order and how long it took, and then has it been picked up? Scan the ticket. I've got barcodes on the tickets. Scan the ticket, mark it picked up. Oh, it's not paid. We're prompt for payment before they send it out the door. That's always important. Make sure you get paid before you release that laundry to somebody.
Right. Even having like that was one of Brian's big things, was like, it needs to say, collect payment before returning, or
Yes.
not paid, pay at pickup. And that needs to be the largest thing on the receipt and on the sticker.
Yeah.
So that you don't accidentally give it back to them before you collect the payment.
And we still do it occasionally, but not
Yes.
as often as we used to. The labels on the bags, I can customize my lines on the labels on the bags. So you do have to be able to count. If there's 5 bags, I need you to count that you are giving back 5 bags. So, it's idiot proofed as much as possible, but you still have to have people that can read and count. So,
Yeah. Well, we always talk about the point and say method, which, when we do have, because like you said, you make it as idiot proof as you can, and somehow still someone doesn't get all their bags, or someone gets the wrong bags or something. And we'll actually go back talking about those timestamps. We can look at the timestamp of when it was picked up.
Yep.
And we teach the point and say method. So you're supposed to say, Sharon Brinks, 5 bags, 2 hangers. And we can go back and we can say, you're not pointing to the 5 bags and the 2 hangers.
Yeah.
And if you actually have them point at it, what'll happen is if they say, Sharon Brinks, 5 bags, 2 hangers, and then if you're Sharon Brinks and you're saying, well, here's the 5 bags, but where are the 2 hangers? Oh, I'm sorry, I got busy. My son's in the, whatever.
Yeah.
And so, everyone gets sidetracked every once in a while, but that's why if you point and say you're involving the customer then to help your employee get the customer all their items back.
I like that idea. We might.
Yeah. But it's Brian's idea.
I'm
going to take credit for all his good ideas, like I always do. But no, it's really.
Well, and I'll tell the store managers that I came up with that. So yeah.
There you go. You take it from me. I take it from Brian. It'll be your idea. Next time you are on stage, just take full credit for that. And
there you go.
As long as you mention our name, we're good.
There you go.
So I know that you guys have done delivery, and have you scaled that up? What part of your store is that? Like, how much of your revenue is that, and how long did it take to scale?
0. So, so you had alluded to me having some health issues back.
Yep.
So 2024, we're trying to build that second store, and we had a separate pickup and delivery business. I only had 1 employee, happened to be my stepdaughter. She was running the whole thing. And so I got diagnosed with breast cancer in May of 2024, started chemo in June, finished chemo in October. And I tell you what, the brain fog is real. All I wanted to do is just sit and stare at the wall. No energy, can't think, hard to form a complete sentence. Got 1 laundromat we're running. We're trying to build a second one. I'm trying to make sure the pickup and delivery is going smoothly. And I'm like, I'm kind of superwoman, but I can't really do it all, especially not on chemo. So I gave up. We gave that pickup and delivery business to my stepdaughter. And so as of the first of the year of 2025, it was her business and she was running the whole thing. So, and then last year, so this is kind of timely. Last year, she got pregnant with her second child and decided that she's going to be stay-at-home mom full-time, so she shut that business down. This is timely because she actually gave birth to that second child yesterday. So,
congrats. Very cool.
Yeah, we got a second grandson from that.
That's great.
It's kind of timely there. So we no longer offer pickup and delivery. I do think it's a viable thing. I personally want to focus on self-service. I like the drop off in store. We are priced to a point to where I only have to have one person there at a time to do that drop off service. If I was to lower the price, then we'd have more business. And you know how it ratchets up. You lower the price, you got more business. Now I got to have a second person there. Now I need more business to pay for that second person. And it's just, I'm keeping it at one. So wash, dry, fold, in store, drop off, supplements the payroll somewhat, but also shows that, hey, we are the experts at laundry. You've got a laundry question, come ask us. You stain, come talk to us. You not sure which size machine. We do laundry all the time, so come and let us help you with that. Pickup and delivery, I think in our particular market, I really believe in the small commercial is where it's at. Residential eats you alive. If you're just starting out, I think small commercial, you want the people at the UniFirst, the Airmarks, those people don't want to touch. But like the boutique specialty things, I would say try to avoid, places that have massage oils and stuff. Those are just nasty.
Yep.
You've got specific chemicals you want to deal with, but start with the easier stuff. But yeah, I think it's a viable business, but my explanation for that, if you're a laundromat owner, get your wash, dry, fold in-store process nailed down to perfection. You've got to be able to know your numbers. You've got to know your numbers. Oh my gosh, you've got to know your numbers on in-store drop-off. Then consider doing pickup and delivery. I would not recommend doing third-party Uber type things that just, I could show you a picture of the Uber driver that rear-ended our van. And actually, he was a DoorDash driver. Take that back. Tank top, the tattoos, and the cigarette hanging out of his mouth. I don't want that type of person picking up and delivering our laundry, and that's the image that you have.
Well, that's a best case scenario. That's if they can actually pick it up and deliver it. I mean, the complaints we hear about, because our software accommodates that. And we've had to add that feature just because other players in the industry have it. But since we've added it and we've had enough people use it, I overwhelmingly just say, don't use it. Don't do that. Like, it's such a bad thing. If
it works for you, but you're giving the reputation of your company over to somebody who is doing DoorDash. So if you're okay with that, fine. You can run it out of your own vehicle. I mean, pickup and delivery is a whole nother animal, but my explanation of that is, if you remember Star Trek and they had three-dimensional chess, it's wash, dry, fold, up a notch, that's three-dimensional chess. There's so many other, pun intended, moving parts that are involved with that. You're not only washing, there's also another trust thing if you're talking about personal laundry. It's one thing for somebody to drop off with you and you're washing their underwear for them. For pickup and delivery, not only you're washing their underwear, but now you know where they live. And not everybody, you might think the people that drop off in your store might want that convenience. There's a lot of people that don't want you to know where they live. For whatever reason, they want their privacy. They kind of want you to be their closet. We don't really have that problem a whole lot, but it's just something that I can't see us getting back into. Never say never, but if we do, it would just be small commercial.
Well, we do it, and it's just a pain in the rear, and it's no revenue. I mean, there's no way it's 1% of our revenue.
So Steve did a presentation at the CLA's Wash, Dry, Fold conference on pickup and delivery and knowing your numbers, and he has a whole extremely elaborate spreadsheet. He has a spreadsheet. He's an engineer. What can I say?
Right.
He's a spreadsheet guy. Every possible variable that you could possibly have, and where you need your price point to be. And you're absolutely right. It's extremely difficult. You've got to know your numbers down to a T and have that price point high enough that you can cover all your expenses and the profit that you want. And most people don't take the time to do those numbers. And the people that's involved, it's like, I don't need that at this point in my life.
I've found that the more the laundromat owner understands their numbers, the more bearish they are on delivery. And the more they understand the industry, the more bullish they are on wash, dry, fold.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm always trying to help laundromat owners that are. I think what happens is they see all the marketing, and they know that they want to do laundry delivery. That's the one thing they know. Maybe they'll get a laundromat to do it. Maybe they'll do wash, dry, fold too. And it's like you're thinking about this literally on its head. Like it's. I think it's very difficult. I think 10 times more people fail at laundry delivery
Yeah.
than fail at laundromat ownerships.
Yeah.
I've seen laundromat owners that are really bad. I mean, these people are really like, how do they even have a business? I don't know. Like
Yeah.
the way they treat everyone and I mean, you know, when you've got over 1,300 customers like we do, you get all ranges. You get the best in the industry, and you get the people that are like, how are you still open?
Yeah.
And with the delivery side of things, it's like that's actually really easy to fail at, even if you're a top operator, versus just like owning a laundromat, doing the self-serve and the wash, dry, fold. It's a really low bar. Like you don't have to be that good of an operator to have a successful business doing that. Now, if you do it well, that's when you start seeing growth, and they're opening more stores, and they're opening these like super nice stores with new machines. And so when you can operate that well, that kind of separates, the good operators from the ones that are still learning. But the delivery thing, there's just so much marketing around it. And so there's so much excitement around it. And I try to not be like, don't do delivery, because I don't want to tell people what to do. But I am trying to like help them be like, well, get your self-serve and your wash, dry, fold. Those two things go together because they will grow each other. And you need the attendants there to help the self-serve customers figure out how to start the machines, and make sure they don't abuse the machines, and make sure they don't crack the screens, and make sure they don't start fires. Or when they do, you need your attendants there to put out the fires and to lower your insurance rate. I mean, on and on and on. But then the delivery is a second business that is very hard.
It's
That is very expensive.
We actually had a separate LLC for it. Yeah.
Yep.
It is a separate, complete and separate business.
And the margins are very narrow, and the customer acquisition cost is very high. And the LTV, the lifetime value of the customer, the payback period is 1 to 2 years. So, it's expensive to buy a customer, and then you've got to hold them for 1 or 2 years. And you've really got to perform at a really high level to keep them for that 1 or 2 years. So if you go into it buying those expensive customers, and you don't have all your wash, dry, fold processes down, then I just see a lot of people, not succeed at that, and they end up dropping it for one reason or another. But then the only people that go out and talk about it are the people that are that top 1% that are operating. Yeah, and so I thought it was an important thing to talk about, because I do think, and just to be transparent about our numbers, you mentioned commercial accounts, and that's what I'm always telling people too. Like, we have a commercial account that does $50,000 a year with us.
Yeah.
And we did some delivery with them, and they're like, that's too expensive. We would rather just drop it off and pick it up.
Yeah.
And so we have another small commercial account that does like 500 a week, and that's our main, delivery income right there. And it's fine. We do some residentials on the way to and from them, but it's you're talking about less than $1,000 a week out of $2.5 million a year.
Yeah.
But then you've got insurance for the van, you've got the delivery driver, you've got the delivery process, you've got all the back end, the software, and then you've got to run the Google ads, and you got to get the customers to. It's a lot of extra work for insignificant amount of revenue in most cases. I know some people have done incredible with it, and we do have people that use our platform, that use Wash, Dry, Fold POS, that are doing big numbers with it, and we're happy for them. But that is a surprisingly small amount.
Yeah,
of
that's
the
about
customers.
our ratios. It was like this much income from pickup and delivery versus this much from self-service and wash, dry, fold.
Yeah.
And it's so, to me, it's the business is three separate. You've got self-service. The beauty of that is the customers are their own labor.
That's the easy money.
Very
Yep.
capital intensive for the equipment, but utilities, but they bring their own labor. Then you've got wash,
right.
dry, fold. It's a separate business, if you will. And then you've got pickup and delivery. So, but that's another thing that's so intriguing about this industry. You can run your business any way you want. There's so many different combinations. You can be
Yeah.
attended, you can be unattended, you can be unattended and have drop lockers for your wash, dry, fold. You can just any combination you can think of. So our model is we open at 7:30 in the morning, we close at 10 at night, last wash 9:15, fully attended. The stores are built in such a way that we can't be unattended. You could just walk right behind the counter. So
Yep.
fully attended, and customer service is number one. We try to be like the Chick-fil-A of laundromats. We're trying to
Yeah.
be, helpful and just the best we possibly can. Fun fact, our first store, our first laundry station that we opened in 2018 is patterned off of Liberty Laundry's Delaware store. So if you look at pictures of it, the tile around there, the whole layout of the dryers in the back and the washers and the sliding doors and everything. And that was, so I always try to give a shout out to Liberty Laundry and your Delaware store, that was the inspiration for the laundry station on Oliver Street. So
Well, I really appreciate that. The laundry station is probably even nicer than the Delaware store, but every time I see the photos of it, I'm like, wait, this is my Delaware store. And then I'm like, wait, no, I see the
Yeah.
laundry station sign. It can't
Yeah.
be. It just is like such a weird thing. But
Yeah.
you've done such a great job. I actually send people like the pictures of how to set up your counter space and your wash, dry, fold area.
Yeah.
I use your setup probably more often than I use our own setup as an example of how to do it, because it looks so good and it's done
I
so
wish
well.
we had more room. I would do that differently now, knowing now.
Yeah.
If I'd known that.
Ours has a little bit more room, but it doesn't look as good as yours.
Exactly. So anyway, so I wanted to make sure I got that shout out in there to you.
Well, I just wanted to ask you because I think that you're telling an inconvenient truth that honestly 9 out of 10 of the laundromat owners that I've talked to tell a very similar story.
Yeah.
But it's hard to sell software if you're not doing the delivery. And so the 1 out of 10 are the ones that get all the space because there's software to sell on the back end there. And so the market just kind of pushes that,
Now, I will be
10%
clear, when
or
we
less
had our
forward.
pickup and delivery business, we did use a different software. We didn't use the wash, dry, fold POS software.
I don't think we had it back then, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't even think you
Go ahead.
did. And shout out to the Simmonses. We used Curbside. Worked great.
Nice guys.
I liked it. We had a different software before then that got sunsetted, so we went over to Curbside, and that's what was in use before the business folded. And it was profitable. I mean, we were making money. It just wasn't worth the hassle, It's
Yeah.
just wasn't worth the hassle. And at that time in my life with going on the chemo, that was just one thing I did not need going on.
We've got to be able to say that we understand and that we've done it and all that, but it's not easy. It's not the easy way to do things.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's the business on top of the business, like you said. And so,
Yeah.
there's a few other things that I want to talk to you about and just kind of to come back to the whole reason why, or the whole premise behind this Laundromat Ownership podcast was to talk about the inconvenient truths of laundromat ownership and to kind of say the things that people need to hear and that would be really helpful, but that no one wants to say out loud because they're worried about the industry or they're worried about the software guys or they're worried about whatever. And one of those things is around employee theft. I know that we've had a lot of employee theft at our stores over the years. We
Yeah.
fired a lot of people for it.
Yeah.
What are your experiences in that area? And share whatever you want to, and you don't have to share everything you don't want to.
We just had a horrific one from the manager that I trusted for 5 years. Did so much for, helped out, helped her family. You think you've built the bond, you can trust them. And then I stumbled across how she had been stealing from us. Now, to be clear, Wash, Dry, Fold POS tracks every dollar that goes through, but you're trusting that person also to pull the money from the bill changer and to
If you
write
have one of
down the
those,
morning
yeah.
reconciliation correctly. And I didn't have one of those changers that has all the fancy counting, and it just had like a little counter in it. So you're trusting them to take the money out, count it, and write it down correctly. And actually count the wash, dry, fold POS drawer and enter in the amounts. Never counted the drawer, took the money from the bill changer, added it to the drawer, end of shift, would pull the 20s, pull any extra bills from the bill changer, put it in her pocket. I guess she didn't think my cameras worked, because I've spent the last couple of months documenting the videos, pulling videos, documenting videos. We have a case number. Going to submit all that to the Financial Crimes Department at Wichita Police Department. But we are well into felony territory. We're into, yeah, it's embarrassing, the amount. It's embarrassing to me how much I trusted her. And she had a prior 10 years ago. She did jail time for. People can change. That one didn't. So hopefully she'll learn from the error of her ways. But there was that one. I had another one at the Oliver store, had access to the bill changer. And then remember how I said when I had my Supersuds laundromat, we opened with, when I bought it, I had 2 employees that I'd inherited. Yeah, then we became unattended completely because, again, the bill changer. Every time I've had significant theft, it's from giving them access to the bill changer. And you can say, well, you should always just do that yourself, have a relative. We're doing the volume that I am not going in and dealing with that bill changer every single day. No, no. And that's what it took, was to fill up, or have 2 or 3 bill changers. So we're not going coinless, but we're just not supplying the quarters anymore. And you know what? Don't be afraid of that. We have not missed a beat. We have not missed a beat. She would always direct people to the bill changer when they wanted to break a 20 or whatever. What we're supposed to do is, you can pay for that machine right here at the counter, because of how Wash, Dry, Fold POS has that API, I'm going to just start a form. She would send to the bill changer to load up the bill changer with cash. Well, now we have a sign on our bill changers, which they're for sale if anybody needs to. We have a sign on them that says "See Attendant." So then they, new customers will come over the attendant and like, do you not supply quarters? Like, no, you don't need to touch those nasty quarters with germs on them. You can pay right here for the machines. Just tell me the number, and we can even give you a receipt for that, which people love that, especially if they're doing it for somebody else and they're getting reimbursed for it, or they can actually show what machines were used and how much they paid for it. And then they can reconcile later on. So
it's easier than like 40 quarters.
Yes. Yeah. My 100-pound machines at Oliver, base price is $16 or $17. I can't remember which. And then you can add extra wash, extra rinse, extra time, blah, blah, blah. And it gets up there. Nobody wants to mess with those kinds of quarters. So, and that's why the bill changer needs attention every single day, is because you're dispensing so darn many of them. So, and we only had single hoppers, 1 single hopper change machine at each store. So, access to cash, especially when there's no reconciliation, there's no accountability as far as a system that's on a computer, right? So if you're just pulling bills out of the changer and there's no accountability there except on camera, that's one thing. But access to cash without identifiable accountability just makes people stupid. I don't care who they are. I don't care how much you trust them. It's even if it's family members, you got to think, I don't know. Now my numbers are off. I've never had that problem with family members, but cash makes people stupid. They make bad choices. So it's been ugly. We're finishing that episode. In the new store, when we build another store, we'll even put coin boxes in my equipment. I don't know. I might put coin drops in, just because people do I don't know why, people like to bring their quarters in and use them. On the other hand, I hate having to pull those quarters once a month. They're still bringing in enough that I have to pull quarters once a month. But I have the keys to the washers and dryers now. I pulled all the keys for that kind of stuff. So, Just
one
remember,
of the
cash makes people make stupid choices.
It really does. It really does. One of the first things we did when we bought Liberty Laundry from Brian's parents, when that
Yeah.
ownership transitioned, we just knew after, I guess it wasn't the first thing, but within like 3 or 4 months, we just knew we had to get rid of all the quarters because the amount of emptying the machines and
Yeah.
the hoppers and the counting and the manual labor, like you said, is just too much.
Yeah.
Once you're doing it at scale, it's a full-time job. And so we just knew we had to get rid of quarters, and we figured that we would see a substantial drop in revenue because, like you said, people love the quarters and they just want to come in with all their quarters and they want to spend them, and that's their habit. And when we went quarterless, we took out the ATMs and put bill breakers, and we took out the hoppers and put bill breakers in there instead.
Yeah.
And of course, the value add centers. Since we've gone quarterless, the revenue's just been up. I mean, we've gone up. When we bought it, it was 2.1, and now it's 2.5 million.
Yeah.
And so, in just a few years, we've seen significant. And there's a lot of things we've done to try and increase that revenue. But one of the things we did that we thought would decrease it was get rid of the quarters,
Yeah.
just to make it easier on us. We knew the customers wouldn't like it. We were just like, this has just got to be easier to run as a business. And when we did that, we did the big bonus program. So like, bring your quarters, great. This is $20 worth of quarters. You know what? I'm going to give you this $20 bill. I'm going to walk you over to the value add center.
Yeah.
You're going to put in the 20 and you get $30 worth of machine starts. That's a 50% bonus. We did like a 50% bonus for the first month. Now it's only a 10% bonus. So you load $20, you get 22.
Yeah.
But if you're worried people are going to push back, then that 50% bonus on that first month,
Yeah.
it didn't really end up costing us anything. Because if you look at your COGS, I mean, your COGS are just like your utilities. And so utilities were up a little bit that first month or two, but it's like the actual revenue was not much impacted. In fact, I feel like people spent more because they were trying to get those bigger bonuses. Selling wash, dry, fold POS I sold it for, I don't know, 8 years straight. I still sell it, but I'm kind of the more in the marketing ops side of things now. Rebecca does our sales now, but I would say about once a week, I would get on the phone with someone and I could usually tell, I usually had an idea and I would say, well, what brings you to contact us today? And they would say something like, oh, well, I just figured it's about time. And I'm like, no one just thinks, oh, it's about time to spend thousands of dollars on a point of sale system and train all my staff on it. And then once we get into the employee theft piece of it and how it prevents employee theft, and if you even look into the history of cash registers, they were created to prevent employee theft. That was the single purpose of them. They do a lot of things now, but initially it was to prevent employee theft. And the number of people I've talked to, I would say I've probably talked to 100 or 200 that have had hundreds of dollars stolen from them.
Yeah.
And then people that I've had in excess of $20,000 stolen from them. It's got to be 25, 26 laundromat owners at least.
Yeah.
And there's really not that many high performing stores that could even, have that much revenue to steal in that short of time.
What's
So
sad is when you're doing enough business, you don't notice that it's missing.
that's right.
But
That's right.
that one store was still ramping up, but the revenue looked flat. So, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It takes a while to
That's the embarrassing
catch those
part.
things.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think there's anything to be embarrassed of just because I think it happens to so many laundromat owners. And it's just, people, when someone steals, that's them. It's not you that they stole from you. That's my personal feelings on it. And we've had it happen to us as well.
Both my parents grew up in the Depression and instilled in me the value that you don't steal from anybody. You work for it. And I've worked my butt off my whole life. So is my husband. I'm the first person in my family to graduate high school, let alone college.
Wow.
So I've worked hard to get where I'm at, and for have somebody want to take a shortcut and try to, take from my family. That's the cardinal sin. Yeah. Don't do that.
It's very emotional. It's very upsetting. And I think that's why there's not a lot of people talking about it in the
Yeah.
industry. But being on the point of sale side of things, we get to see that it is a big part of the industry that people don't want to talk about. And part of it is it's just, it's just hard to talk about. And like you said, it's embarrassing. And for us, it's like,
Embarrassing, yeah.
it's happened to us, I don't know how, like a dozen times now. And so it's like, for us, we just think of it as, well, this is part of hiring at that labor. Now, if we were paying our employees $100 an hour,
Yeah.
do I think we would still see the same amount of theft?
Yeah.
No, we'd be out of business. Obviously, you couldn't run a laundromat at $100 an hour, obviously. But I do think it has something to do with laundromats are typically paying, somewhere in that $12 to $20, per hour
This
point.
manager was well over $20 an hour and had, I was paying her direct primary care
Wow.
membership. So
Which is really, yep.
she was
But that's also probably the highest she's ever been paid, though, right?
probably the highest. Yeah. Yeah. I'm guessing. I doubt she was making that much at Dollar Tree. So, of course, she came to me. But, yeah, good. Had a good job. Yeah. Anyway, her loss.
Yeah.
And we've got much better staff in place now, man. We actually cleaned house. I got rid of a couple of others and that weren't stealing. Well, one was just a low performer. Another one found a different job, and we've cleaned out. And man, we got so much a better staff now, and everybody understands why we have a better staff now. And Sharon's PO. So
It's work. It's work to get a good staff in place. And a lot of laundromat owners don't want to do it. They would rather have the staff that steals from them and that isn't very good.
Yeah.
Because at least that's the staff they have, and it doesn't require any labor on their part to improve that. And like I said, you can own a laundromat like that. And I know a lot of owners that's how they run their laundromat. But you're not going to really excel like you have or like Liberty Laundry has if you run your laundromats like that. In fact, usually those laundromats don't get over 250 to 300 in revenue.
Yeah.
The laundromats that get over 500 in revenue, I know our stores are all over 700. So, but I think to do that, you have to put in the time to get the right people there. And I appreciate you being honest and upfront, even though it's painful on that thing, because I do think it helps a lot of people. And I mean, just earlier this week, we were talking to a laundromat owner. This is embarrassing. Now, if you want to know a story that's actually embarrassing, they came to their laundromat, which was a wash, dry, fold laundromat. It's a self-serve and wash, dry, fold. And they weren't down the street from it or anything. And some of these owners live a few hours away from their stores, which you and I both would never do that.
Right.
But he was going to his laundromat, hadn't been there in a week or two, and found a point of sale system on the counter, one that he had not bought. It was one of those square systems that you can get,
Yeah.
And it was one of his employees was accepting credit cards. And guess who the money was going to? The employee. So he had a point of sale system he didn't even know about. And it was, one of his employees had opened a Square account and was accepting credit cards. So you talk about embarrassing theft. That's pretty embarrassing as far as employee theft, that you didn't even know you had a point of sale system. But
yeah, here I said cash makes people stupid. And I've always said that I've never had anybody steal from me using a credit or debit card, but that would be an example, as if they didn't.
It happens. It does happen. There's just a lot of theft in laundromats, and most of it is employee theft. And so I think that's my PSA that I wanted to talk about today. So I appreciate you giving me the time to that. But I want to hear your PSA about the mammograms.
Yeah. So following on your thing, keep an eye on your stores. If you can be passive about it, but you're also going to get probably stolen from. The more you're in there, I try to be proactive, be in my stores, make sure the employees know that you're watching, not just, creepy watching them, but you're paying attention to your store. If you're mice will play when the cat's away type thing. So
you don't want to be totally absentee. If you're totally absentee, they will take advantage of it.
They certainly will. So, okay, my PSA. Ladies, get your mammograms every year. So, like I talked about on May of 24, I got diagnosed with breast cancer. I just had one tumor. So I want everybody to know I'm healthy. I'm fine. And this is really my hair now this time. So
I see that.
yeah, I did go on a
I like it. It looks good.
on Jordan Berry's, and I actually pulled my wig off. So this really is my hair this time.
We won't get the big wig reveal for this
You
episode,
don't get the
but
big
that's
wig
okay.
reveal.
It's better to have the real hair.
But it does need to be colored because that's my natural color. So I'm not a natural blonde. So surprise.
It looks good.
I have a good colorist. So there was nothing to be seen on my mammogram in 2023. 2024, I had 2.5 centimeter tumor. It had not spread, but it was a good sized tumor. That was considered stage 2 because it was over because of the size.
Wow.
So we hit it aggressive. It was the type was HER2 positive, which is treatable, but it is an aggressive and fast-growing type of cancer. So thank goodness we caught it then. Had I decided to skip my mammogram in 2024, then I don't know what I've been dealing with in 2025. It could have spread and whatnot. But 6
Wow.
months of 6 treatments of chemo, 3 weeks apart. Then I had lumpectomy. Just the lumpectomy, November of 24. It showed it was all gone. There were no live cancer cells. I had lymph nodes biopsied as well, and that left side, no cancer, nothing. It hadn't spread even to the lymph nodes. So, but just in case, and I still had radiation in January, February through September of 25. I had the shots are called Phesgo, which is a combo. It's a chemo type drug. So I had to have 11 of those 3 weeks apart, during which time I believe is when the previously aforementioned employee started stealing from me while I'm still on, cancer treatment. So I'm now in that 5-year period, post-cancer, cancer-free, of when I just go visit my oncologist every 6 months just to kind of make sure everything's okay. And, they do some blood work and make sure I'm okay. And then they'll release me from everything at the end of the 5-year period. So everything's good. It's completely gone. I was working on that anyway, but lost, I think, about 60 pounds total.
Wow.
I lost a bunch ahead of time. Chemo didn't help a whole lot, but then I lost the rest of it after that. But yeah, get your mammograms. I heard from so many people, so many women, I still hear it occasionally, oh, I just don't want to know. Yeah, you do want to know. You do want to know. Because if it's spread, the best quote I saw was from a book. It's called, and the gal's name is actually Susan Love, and it's called Dr. Love's breast cancer book. And she's actually a breast surgeon, but she had had a type of cancer, wasn't breast cancer, but she had had a type of cancer herself. So it's basically the encyclopedia about all different types of breast cancer treatments and stuff. And the quote from that I like to give people is, nobody ever dies from breast cancer. What kills you is when those cells travel to vital organs, and then when they're in those vital organs, that's what can kill you. So catch those cows before they get out of the barn. Keep them in there. Catch it.
Yeah.
Early detection really is key. They always say that. And, you hate going in there and having that whole mammo and everything getting smushed.
Squished. Yeah, it doesn't sound very
I
fun.
used to be bigger than I am now, and it was seriously did not feel comfortable. But I tell you what, I'm so glad I caught it early with just that one tumor and got it out of the way. I've got a new appreciation of life. I've kicked cancer, so what's life going to do to me? Even having employees steal a ridiculous amount of money from me, I'm still alive.
You're still doing great.
I've still got more laundries to build, and heck, I even got my scuba diving certification. So cancer didn't kill me, so I thought I'd try scuba diving. So yeah,
That's right. You're doing better than you've ever been, and the
yeah.
lady who stole from you is probably going to be in a little bit of trouble here in the near future. But whatever the case,
It'll be interesting. But yeah,
Right.
I run 2 miles twice a week. I work out with a personal trainer for an hour on weights once a week. Just because, you got to keep the muscles and the bones strong and stuff. And I will not go to the gym and lift weights. I have to pay somebody to tell me to lift weights and to count for me and stuff. But so yeah, I'm healthier and stronger than I've ever been. So
that's excellent. That's really good. Well, there's one thing that I want to close on, and I really am glad that that we didn't lose you to cancer and that we've got you back and better than ever, because I feel like you're really, really one of the women that I look up to most in this industry, and also just one of the best voices I think that we have. So I really appreciate that. And but I do want to hear from you the craziest thing you have ever seen or heard of in any of your laundromats. What's just the experience that you're just like, I cannot believe that just happened?
Well, we've had several. Two that came to mind was the little rundown. The first one was the little rundown laundromat that I had, Super Suds. Some guy there ran poker tournaments, and apparently thought it was
out of your laundromat.
No, in town.
Oh, okay.
But apparently he thought it was all these poker chips needed to be washed, and he used one of the aforementioned Horizons and a top loader, and washed them, which doesn't sound like a bad idea until you realize, I don't know what he put in there, if it's just the water, but the plastic dissolves and flakes off, and there's a metal disc in the center.
Okay.
That
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. So for a long time, I had a big bucket full of poker chip remains. In fact, I might have it in the back room at Oliver. Poker chip remains that we scooped out of the washers, scooped out of the drain line. You can just imagine how it clogged up the drain. That's how I found out it overflowed.
Sure, you're finding those things for months.
Poker chips. So yeah, that one. That Horizon was never the same. It never.
Oh man.
At the time it was like I don't know how much they go for now, but it was like a $2,500 machine, and it was one of my new ones.
Yeah.
Just ruined that machine. And but the other one was we were on vacation, and the attendant sends us a video, and I'm like, what am I looking at? And somebody had brought in, this was on a Sunday afternoon, had brought in some blankets from their garage to wash, because they've all stuffy and stuff. He had laid this one blanket out and comes and tells the attendant, she needs to come do something about this. And she comes over, and it's a nest of baby mice that are alive in my laundry.
Oh my goodness.
And so, I don't know where the mom went. So anyway, we had a little nest of baby mice. I got my camera that goes right down the center aisle. On the blanket, there's this little nest of baby mice. So we've had others where the guy passes out on the toilet in the bathroom and falls off, and you got to call 911. Or I ask, are you doing okay? And doesn't answer. I open the door, and he's sitting there on the toilet. Could you call 911? That's two separate incidents. There's all sorts. That's the neighborhood that most of your laundromats are in. That's the people that need it the most. You have the awesome customers that bring you cookies and cakes and brownies and appreciate you. Then you have the others that will cuss you out or fall off the toilet in the bathroom and need medical assistance.
That's right.
Welcome to our world of.
That's right. They're either customers you just love and couldn't live without, or they're overdosing in your bathroom. That is kind of the dichotomy you get there, unfortunately. But
there's been other stories, but those are the ones that come up the top of my head. I'm sure if I ask my attendants, they'll be like, "Oh, and there's that other time." It's like, I forgot about that one.
Well, I so appreciate you spending so much time with us today, and it's really been a pleasure to get to talk to you, and I've learned a lot, and I've had a really fun time as well. So thanks so much for joining us, and I'll have you back on again.
Okay, we'll do it when I get store number 3 up and running.
Let's do it.
It too will have wash, dry, fold POS.